black mamba, puff adder, Cape cobra. The most feared venomous snakes on the planet are being wiped out, methodically, at massive scale. And whatever's killing them consumes up to 6 of them a day. The forensic file points to a suspect with impossible attack numbers, a strike speed of 15 milliseconds, 7 times faster than the snake's own bite. 50 joules of force driven into a single point, enough to shatter bone. A reptile hunter that abandoned the sky and evolved backward into the deadliest walking weapon in Africa. But the file hides something even more disturbing. The survival of millions of people depends entirely on this predator's brutal hunts. I'm Ambrose Wild, and this is one of the strangest cases the African savannah has ever handed us. Start with the crime scene. The grasslands of the Serengeti and the Sahel hold one of the densest populations of venomous snakes anywhere on Earth. Flat terrain, warm ground, and an endless supply of rodents turned this place into a reptile factory, pushing snake evolution toward the far edge of lethality. At the top of the victim list sits the black mamba, a snake that can grow past 4 meters and moves at nearly 20 kilometers an hour, making it the fastest land snake alive. Most snakes flee. The mamba holds its ground and strikes first, and its neurotoxin can stop a human heart in under an hour. Next comes the Cape cobra, one of the most venomous cobras on the continent, small enough to hide in a shrub and bold enough to enter homes. And then the puff adder, the snake responsible for more human deaths in Africa than any other, not because its venom is the strongest, but because it refuses to move. It lies still against the dirt, invisible, and strikes anything that steps too close. So here's the question that stumped biologists for decades. Why don't Africa's great birds of prey, the eagles and hawks that dominate the sky, simply clear these snakes out? The answer is a lesson in the limits of power. The sky offers no advantage here. Savannah grass grows tall enough to break an aerial hunter's line of sight, and a snake's body has almost no surface area from above, so it vanishes into a rodent burrow in a single second. An eagle diving from 100 meters arrives to find nothing but grass. That pressure cracked open one of the strangest events in the fossil record. Roughly 15 million years ago, as the grasslands spread and the snakes multiplied, one branch of the raptor family did something almost no predator ever does. It gave up the sky. Generation by generation, over millions of years, its bones stopped being the light, hollow tubes that let birds fly. The calcium in its legs thickened until the bone ran solid, dense as steel rod. Meet Sagittarius serpentarius, the secretary bird. From the waist up, it wears the body of an eagle, a hooked beak and a 2-meter wingspan. From the waist down, it stands on the long, armored legs of a crane. This is the only bird of prey on Earth that hunts almost entirely on foot, and the only one that kills with its feet instead of its talons. Don't let the elegant look fool you. This bird walks up to 30 kilometers a day across open grassland, scanning the ground with vision so sharp it can lock onto a snake's movement from far across a field. But here's the problem that kept scientists awake. How does an animal walk directly into the strike range of the deadliest snake in the world and never take a single drop of venom? The answer starts in the legs, and it rewrites what most people assume about how this bird kills. Those legs aren't tools for walking, they're a delivery system for lethal force. A black mamba's strike, from stillness to fangs in flesh, takes 50 to 70 milliseconds. A human blink takes about 150. On paper, the snake always wins. because it moves before its target can react. But high-speed cameras clock the secretary bird's kick at 10 to 15 milliseconds, up to 7 times faster than the mamba's strike. Biologists at the Royal Veterinary College measured the force of that kick and found it lands with roughly 5 times the bird's own body weight, concentrated on a single point smaller than a coin. Picture a hammer swung straight down onto the snake's spine. The impact snaps the vertebrae before the reptile registers the shadow above it. But why doesn't that violent recoil shatter the bird's own leg? The anatomy holds the answer. The knee joint works like a hydraulic shock absorber, and the tendons carry a rebound reflex that contracts and lifts the leg the instant it touches the target, so the return force never travels back up the bone. The scales on the lower leg run 3 times thicker than normal, forming a natural greave, armor plating that turns aside any fang that grazes it. And the same study found something the original story never mentions. The bird's accuracy is not instinct alone. It aims with the visual guidance of a brain wired to track fast movement, and it recalibrates each kick in flight, which is why so few of them miss. The weapon is clear, but against a snake that spits venom or one that hides in plain sight, raw force isn't enough. And this is where the secretary bird stops looking like a bird at all. Wildlife researchers have documented a hunting sequence so precise it functions like a martial art, and it runs the same way almost every time. First, the scan. Second, the provocation. Third, the wear down. Fourth, the flush into open ground. Fifth, the finishing blow. Watch the confrontation with a full-grown black mamba and the choreography becomes clear. The mamba coils and lifts its body high to intimidate. The bird answers with the opposite of fear. It throws open both wings. That wing spread does 2 jobs at once. It holds the bird in perfect balance during the pivots, and it casts a shifting shadow across the ground that overloads the snake's ability to track a target. The mamba lunges at 5 meters per second. The bird tilts its head just far enough that the fangs pass through empty air, millimeters from contact. And in the split second the snake overcommits and drops its head, the blind spot opens. The bird doesn't kick once, it fires a chain. One filmed sequence in the Serengeti recorded a bird landing dozens of strikes in a matter of seconds, more than 5 kicks every second, and roughly 90% of them targeting the head and neck. The mamba was dead before it could recoil for a second strike. Even the puff adder, buried motionless in the brush, doesn't escape. Rather than risk stepping onto a hidden snake, the bird circles, beats its wings, and stamps the ground to send vibrations through the soil. The panicked adder breaks cover and slides toward open dirt, exactly where the bird wants it. And the whole time, the secretary bird holds a spacing of about 1 meter, far enough that no strike can reach it, close enough to drop the kick the moment the snake lifts its head. If this is the kind of natural engineering that keeps you watching, subscribe. I break down the animals that shouldn't work on paper and dominate anyway, every single week. Now, the biggest question of all. How does an animal swallow enough neurotoxin to kill dozens of people and walk away unharmed? For years, the popular explanation was that the secretary bird carries venom-neutralizing antibodies in its blood. Lab work killed that theory outright. If a fang reaches a blood vessel, this bird dies like anything else. Its apparent immunity while eating rests on one fact of chemistry that almost nobody explains correctly. Snake venom is a complex protein. It's only a weapon when it's injected straight into the bloodstream. Swallow it, send it to the stomach, and it stops being venom. It's just food. But the bird doesn't eat carelessly. It follows a sterile procedure the way a surgeon follows a checklist. The instant the snake is dead, the bird lifts the body in its beak and whips it side to side, destroying the last reflexive muscle contractions in the reptile. Then it always swallows head first, and there are two exact reasons why. Tail first would drag the scales backward against the throat and jam. Head first wraps the skull and the venom glands inside the muscle of the throat, so nothing leaks out during the squeeze. Once the snake reaches the stomach, powerful acid breaks the peptide bonds of the venom apart, turning the most dangerous biological weapon in Africa into a high-energy meal. In breeding season, a single pair can take down 6 venomous snakes in one day to feed their chicks. A perfect snake-killing machine. And it's vanishing. Over the past 35 years, the International Union for Conservation of Nature moved the secretary bird all the way to endangered, and its numbers have fallen by more than half across its range, with total local wipeouts in some regions. What kills the snake killer? Not nature, us. This bird needs wide open savannah to run. When farmland spreads and humans suppress the natural bushfires that once kept the grasslands clear, dense thicket swallows the open ground. Drop a bird built to sprint into a tangle of scrub, and you've dropped a Formula One car onto a mud track. It loses the runway it needs to build speed and strike. The second killer is infrastructure. Power lines strung across the sky have become invisible traps. The secretary bird flies mostly at dusk to reach its nest in the flat crown of an acacia, and its poor low-light vision combined with its large body means collisions take a heavy toll on the population every year. The deaths outpace one of the slowest breeding rates of any African bird, a pair that raises only 1 or 2 chicks a season. And when the guardian disappears, the snakes rise. In regions where the secretary bird has gone quiet, ecologists have watched venomous snake populations climb sharply, then trigger a domino run through the whole system. Ground nesting birds like guinea fowl collapse as snakes raid their eggs. And in the worst cases, snakebite on livestock and around villages climbs, as mambas and cobras turn up under beds, in play yards, and along the footpaths where people walk to fetch water. The move has reversed. We stripped the snake killer of its ground, and now the snakes are pressing back into ours. To fight it, conservation groups have fitted GPS trackers to the survivors and built a continent-wide monitoring network where local people report every sighting. They also confirmed what makes this bird so hard to save. You cannot breed it in captivity to solve the problem, and you cannot ship it abroad to clear snakes elsewhere. Its instincts bind it to the African savannah. Cage it, and it stops eating or throws itself against the walls until it dies. The only real fix is to give the land back. Tear down fences, clear the thicket, bury the power lines, and let the grassland breathe again. There's no dark conspiracy here. Only the brutal elegance of evolution doing its work. This strange creature, part eagle, part crane, part living dinosaur, isn't a killing machine. It's nature's answer to the rise of the reptiles, holding the venom in check, not out of hatred, but out of hunger. And in doing so, its violent existence buys peace for millions of other lives, including ours. Pull the wrong piece out of a system this finely balanced, and the whole thing comes down. The savannah can spin on without us, but strip out the proud stride of this backward evolved hunter, and it turns into a kingdom of venom. If cases like this one grip you, stay with me, because I've got a whole series of them coming. The overlooked animals quietly holding entire ecosystems together. I'm Ambrose Wild. I'll see you at the next file.